Good evening everyone and welcome to Gundam News. And with the massive update that just happened on Gundam Seed Freedom, today we're going to be talking all about that, and tomorrow we'll be talking about the other Gundam news that happened. And we got so much that I barely know where to start. We got a new trailer, new art, new stuff to buy, which is of course linked down below. So let's just start with our two main mobile suits. The Rising Freedom Gundam and the Immortal Justice Gundam. A few weeks ago, a very blurry and low resolution image of them was leaked, so back then I took that with a giant rock of salt, but it turns out that it was actually completely right. Looking at the official art that we got with this update, it is literally one-to-one with the art that was leaked. So I'm now also more inclined to believe the other things that were leaked. And the most interesting and believable of those claims is that the new Freedom and Justice Gundam are no longer powered by a nuclear engine. And there are a couple of reasons as to why I'm definitely willing to believe this. If you've seen my video on the Providence Gundam's development history, you'll know that the Dragoon system is an incredibly power-hungry system. And on our new Freedom Gundam, it is no longer present. In fact, I wouldn't even call this a development of the Strike Freedom Gundam, but rather a refined version of the regular Freedom with some Destiny Gundam parts glued on there as well. And to go a bit more in depth about the Rising Freedom Gundam, I'm gonna pull up the high-grade version that was also announced. It will be releasing on January the 26th, goes for 2,640 yen, a little under 20 US, and it perfectly shows us all of the accessories and features of this Gundam. Again, it basically functions like a refined Freedom Gundam. It only has one beam rifle instead of two, it has a pair of rail cannons on the hips, two plasma cannons in the wings, a beam shield on each arm, two beam sabers that can still be combined, and a very interesting looking new shield. It looks like it has Vulcan guns or like small beam guns on it, but the most important thing are the beam sabers on it. But rather than being used as a melee weapon while being attached to the Freedom, this image here shows that its gimmick is to be shot out. The big question then is this going to be some kind of Dragoon system, which I don't think it's going to be, or is it going to be more like the shield of the Dead Scythe, which I think is more likely. And the way Kira uses these weapons then in the new preview is another reason why I don't think the new Freedom and Justice Gundam are powered by a nuke. And by the way, you can check out that trailer with the link down below. So, in Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny, we see that Kira is not shy about using the full firepower of his Freedom Gundam, or Strike Freedom Gundam. He uses the full burst quite liberally. But while this Freedom also still has the ability to go full burst mode, he seems to be much more conservative with his energy this time around. He takes out most enemies with his beam sabers, shoots a few with his beam gun, shoots his rail cannons only once, and never uses the plasma cannons. And then the third reason is something that wasn't leaked, but something I believe could be the case here, and is related to the fact that we see the Rising Freedom launching from a ship that looks like the Minerva, or is just straight up the Minerva. And that ship is equipped with the Deuterium energy transfer system to refuel mobile suits compatible with it on the fly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that the Rising Freedom Gundam and the Immortal Justice Gundam had this system installed to like circumvent their lack of nuclear engine. And now then, let's have a look at the high-grade Immortal Justice Gundam. Just like its sister unit, it goes for 2,640 yen, just under 20 US, releases on January the 26th, and gives us a very good idea of the weaponry of this machine. But unlike the Freedom, the Immortal Justice does feel like a variant of the Infinite Justice, but it does still feel like it's trying to save as much energy as possible. It only comes with a single beam rifle, the same one as the Rising Freedom Gundam, 2 beam sabers that can also function as beam boomerangs, 2 leg-mounted beam blades, and a shield that looks very similar to the one used by the Rising Freedom Gundam. So compared to the other Justice Gundams, it loses 2 beam sabers and the 2 cannons on the backpack. And talking about the backpack, that thing can no longer be used as an independent subflight system. One of the previously defining features of the Justice. What it can do now is transform, which, by the way, is something the, the Rising Freedom can also do. And I'm not gonna mince words here, this looks horrible. It's lazy, uninspired, and it just looks bad. Even in the preview images, it does not look good. So from the optimal angle, it looks bad. So just imagine how bad that's gonna look when you make the model kit for yourself, and you put it on your shelf, and then you look at it at a non-optimal angle. I don't know why they had to shove it in there. It absolutely adds nothing to the design. It is pointless. Moving on. So, according to that leak, the Immortal Justice is not going to be piloted by Athrun, but by Shin. Something that I am again willing to believe because it looks like Athrun is going to be doing like some Secret Service stuff or something. And in the trailer, we do see Shin alongside Kira, together with Luna Maria and Agnes. So I don't really see who else they would be giving this machine to. For the next machines then, we're gonna have to do a bit of guessing. So, we saw Kira, Shin, Luna Maria, and Agnes appear together in a split screen. And we also have 3 new mobile suits announced that they could be potentially piloting. The Gelgoog Menace, the Gyan Strom, and the Force Impulse Gundam Spec 2. The most obvious choice is, of course, to connect Luna Maria with the red Gelgoog because she is famous for piloting a red Zaku. But then with Agnes, I originally wanted to put her in the Impulse, but it doesn't have that insignia of that new organization of theirs, and well, the Gyan does, and her pilot suit is also seemingly more color-coded for the Gyan, so that's what I'm gonna guess that she'll be piloting. This just leaves us with the question then, what about the Impulse? I don't really see any other obvious candidates for it, and it also doesn't appear in the trailer, so is it going to play a large role, or is it just going to make a quick cameo to sell some model kits? Because despite being called the Spec 2, the only difference with the vanilla Impulse is its coloring. And of course, it also has a model kit announced. The real grade Force Impulse Gundam Spec 2 that will be releasing in February of 2024 for 3,410 yen, around 25 US. And again, the only difference I can see is the coloring. And I'm assuming that the stickers will also be slightly different. Or you know what? Maybe it's going to be this series' hand-me-down for Mula Flaga. For the Gelgoog Menace then, a pretty expensive high grade was announced. It does look awesome, but at 3,190 yen, around 25 US, it is definitely on the higher price end for high grades. But if you do decide to get this beast, it will be coming your way in March. And to be fair to the thing, it does come with some very interesting accessories that are, of course, also very reminiscent of the original Gelgoog from the Universal Century. It comes with 2 beam sabers, an active beam Naginata, a stored beam Naginata, a new wizard pack, and a shield. Or well, at least I'm assuming that's a wizard pack. And let's first talk about that shield. I get what they were going for with like trying to make it look like a modernized beam version of the Gelgoog shield, but as far as I can remember, this is the only beam shield I've seen with a physical border around it. Because, you know, there is literally no point to having it. If anything, it's going to hinder it. Because not only is it going to be a weak point, but by increasing and decreasing the beam generator, the pilot can choose how big or small the shield becomes. But with a design like this, the size that it is the size that it is. So, are they gonna try to somehow explain this, that there's some kind of advantage to this, or are they just gonna go like, well, it is what it is, and that is what it is. The wizard pack then, again, if it is a wizard pack, reminds me somewhat of the Otori Striker pack from the Strike Rouge. Like, the cannon is very similar, and the missile pod is almost identical, so I wonder if there's some kind of connection there. Also, in the line art, we can see that the Gelgoog Menace comes with 2 different versions of that wizard pack, but the model kit only comes with 1. In the high grade, we get the flat one with wings, and the other version comes with thicker, more Jin-like wings. Also, based on the Gyan Strom's line art, which has 2 missile pods instead of 1 missile pod and a cannon, it looks like both of these wizard packs have hardpoints for weapons that can be chosen by the pilot. And now it's time to have a look at the machines given to our mysterious faction, or as I will now be calling them, the Mighty Morphin Gundam Rangers. Because just look at these mobile suits. They've only just been released, and there's already fan art out there of them combining into one giant mech. So the squadron is called the Black Knight Squadron, with the lead machine being the Shiva and the standard units being the Rudra. And for the pronunciation here, I'm basing myself on the Japanese katakana spelling, because, I mean, you can see the English on screen right now. Shi-ve.A and Rud-ro.A. Not exactly names that roll off the tongue. Now, we don't know who gets which machine officially, but we can make an educated guess. So my first thought was to have a look at the main colors of the mobile suits and the colors we find on the pilots. So Shura has blue flames on his helmet, so he gets the blue one. Griffin has green hair and green on his helmet, so he gets the green one. Liu's hair is one shade of purple, and his helmet has another shade of purple, so he gets the purple one. Radalard has orange hair, so she gets the orange one. And then finally Daniel, the man with the Char clone screaming mouth mask, gets the red commander unit. But then I looked at their order in the character screen, and there we see that typically the more important characters are listed first. For example, Isaac before Diarca, or Hilda before Herbert and Moss. So I guess it's more likely that Shura gets the commander unit, and then Daniel gets the blue unit. And I'm gonna guess that this is what it's gonna be. And prepare to start saving up if you want the entire squadron, because each one of them will most likely be going for 2,970 yen, which is 20 US. And I say most likely because we only have 2 units announced so far. the commander unit, and the green Rudra. So there's always a possibility that one of the Rudras will come with like an extra accessory or an extra gimmick to set it apart from the other Rudras, and that will then also drive up the price a bit. But anyways, the Shiva will be launching in February and comes with a physical sword that was in no way inspired by Halo's energy sword, 3 regular beam sabers, 2 foot-mounted beam sabers, a beam cape, and a scarab-like shield that has a claw on each side. The big claws are part of the shield, but the small claws can be shot out to grapple enemies. But the thing that worries me the most here is the energy cloak. Yes, it looks good in the promotional images, but I have a similar thing on my Master Grade Destiny Gundam for the Wings of Light. And at least with that thing, it is very obvious that you're looking at something that is printed on a thin sheet of plastic. The green Rudra then will be launching in March and comes with a beam rifle, a standard shield, that same beam mantle as the Shiva, and a sword that looks suspiciously like the sword from the Otori Striker Pack. Like, did everyone just steal an Otori Striker Pack and stole the parts they liked from it? But now we go a few days back in time to the announcement of the high-grade Destroy Gundam. A behemoth that I've always wanted, but never, actually thought that it was gonna become reality. I even remember that, back in the day, I was super split on whether or not I should get the 1/200 scale HCM Pro action figure. Because, I wanted the Destroy Gundam, but the problem was it was really expensive, it wasn't in scale with any of my Gunpla, and especially back in that time, I really preferred having model kits over action figures. But now it is finally here. Or, well, it will be here in March for 14,300 yen, around 100 US. Which, while still expensive, is not nearly as expensive as I was expecting it to be. But it's also not nearly as big as I thought it was going to be, because in the anime, it looks ridiculously massive. But then I looked at its actual height and then realized, oh, this is actually how big it is supposed to be. It's just the anime with, disregarding the actual proportions a little bit and some camera trickery makes it look way bigger than it actually is. And while we don't have all of the details yet, we do know that it can transform, that it comes with a simple action base, and that it also has a lot of effect parts. 12 short green effect parts, 24 long green effect parts, and 4 red effect parts, which are, of course, for the main cannons. So, these behemoths will somehow be appearing in the movie. But in the trailer, we see Kira and friends fighting almost exclusively older machines that were deployed during the first Bloody Valentine War. Or, in other words, from the first Gundam Seed anime. And this goes for both the Zaft machines and the Earth Alliance machines. There's 105 daggers, Jins, Dins, and even a Zaut, which was obsolete at the time the thing was first deployed. So what is the meaning behind this? My first thought was that maybe Zaft and the Alliance are still exhausted from 2 back-to-back wars, which would be understandable, and that with this new conflict, they're basically just fielding whatever they can. We even see the Black Knights and their brand new machines being backed up by Dins. And if you look closely, you'll also see that some of those Dins are carrying the heavy bombardment equipment that would typically be given to Jins. And then finally about the trailer, I must admit that the 3D for the mobile suits does mesh pretty well with the 2D backgrounds, and I am very happy to see that, because in the past I have not been happy at all, for the most part, when animes mixed like heavy use of 3D elements with 2D elements. It always looked out of place, but here I'm definitely going to be able to deal with it. And also, for some reason, I really like this shot of the Murasame. Stepping away from the trailer then to the main visual that was released. And what is going on here? We can see the Rising Freedom and Immortal Justice standing in a circle of some very interesting weapons. Like, immediately up in your face are weapons from the original Strike. We've got the Armor Schneider, the Beam Rifle, a Beam Saber from the Ale Striker pack, and the Sword of the Sword Striker pack. And the more you look at it, the crazier it gets. Like, to the point where I honestly think that it doesn't really mean anything other than just being a really cool piece of art. Like, just look at this image that I found on Twitter to show you where all of those weapons came from. Like what? Are they gonna revive the Blitz or the Aegis in this movie? And then the other thing that caught my attention here is at the top, we see the Archangel flying in with its own squadron of Dins and Murasames. But combined with the previous trailer and the fact that we saw the Freedom launching from the Minerva, I'm not getting the feeling that they're on the same side here. Rather, the Archangel is coming for them, and those Dins and Murasames are in combat formation. And then when I saw the long version of the main visual, the Junkyard got even more crazy, because in addition to random weapons, it now also has visible mobile suit wreckages. Like, there's the Strike Gundam, the Freedom Gundam, and even the Strike Freedom Gundam, because why not? So yeah, to wrap up this video, let's have a look at the other goodies that they've announced. For Gunpla, we also have an SD Gundam X standard version of the Rising Freedom. It goes for 660 yen, around 5 US. It will be releasing on January the 26th. And in addition to its standard accessories and gimmicks, it can also transform into an extra beam rifle that can be used by the full-sized high-grade Rising Freedom Gundam. Because why not? I'm not a firearms expert, but I'm pretty sure that attaching a giant clump of something to the end of your barrel is not really a good idea. But anyways, on to the figures where we get both ends of the price spectrum. On the one hand, we have metal builds. Both the Rising Freedom Gundam and the Immortal Justice Gundam have been announced and went up for pre-order. They are both regular releases that go for 19,800 yen a pop, 133 US, with the Freedom Gundam being slated for a January release and the Justice being slated for a February release. And then on the other hand, we have the 24th volume of Gundam Converge, with 6 super deformed mobile suits that go for 693 yen each, 5 US. Now, this was already previously announced, but before this announcement, the Freedom and Justice were listed as secret machines. Even though we all knew they were going to be the new Freedom and new Justice Gundam. And the other machines in the set are the Calibarn, Rigazi Char's Counterattack version, Rigazi Unicorn version, and the Zaku tank. Staying with the super deformed figures, we also have the Figuarts Mini Kira Yamato, Lacus Klein, and Athrun Zala. They all go for 2,970 yen each, 20 US, are slated for a January release. have some slight articulation and also come with some extra parts to put them in a few different poses. And particularly in the case of Kira and Lacus, you can also pose them hand in hand. And also in January, you can win standard proportion versions of them in Japanese arcades. Kira in his white Zaft uniform, Lacus in her kimono-esque outfit, and Athrun in his Secret Service outfit. And if you're not in Japan, these prize figures are typically also available from regular Japanese hobby stores for like $20 a pop or something. But I must say the faces look off. And not even in a kind of, it doesn't really look like the character, but they still look good kind of way. I just think these faces look bad. Maybe that's just me, but I'm not a fan of them at all. Which fortunately is not the case with the other Lacus figure that they teased. The face still doesn't quite look like Lacus, but it at least does look good. And the figure will be available through Ichiban Kuji in January. And I'm sure that by now you do know how it works, but just to be sure, Ichiban Kuji is a lottery where you buy a ticket for 700 yen, 5 US, and then on that ticket it says which prize you won. You always win something, but obviously the prizes on the lower end are not going to be quite worth $5. But so far, the only prize that we know about is that Lacus figure, so more will be announced later on. Maybe one of the prizes will be a phase shift down version of the High Grade Rising Freedom or Immortal Justice Gundam. Or at least that's what I'm hoping for. And finally, one of my favorite things. Remember how I said that many of the female characters had some very weird looking lips? Well, that's not going to be a problem with these can badges that go for 495 yen each, 3 US, clear keychains that go for 858 yen each, 6 US, or art frame-esque magnets that go for 968 yen each, 7 US. Because all of the characters on them are stylized and no longer have any facial expressions. They fixed it by literally removing it. I love it. They also just like legit look really cool being stylized like that. So yeah, definitely an improvement. And that has been all for this massive Gundam Seed Freedom update / announcement that we got today. I gotta go work on the regular Gundam news now. So as always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great evening, and I'll see you all tomorrow with more Gundam news.